Hey y'all, CB here with NBS Welding. We got the super service truck back here at the log yard. Been here and worked on this Barco loader a couple times on the channel. Been about a year since we welded on this grapple. This grapple was coming apart and we welded up a bunch of cracks in it and added some plates. And we're not really here to inspect it this time, but we're going to check it out anyway. And took a look at it, and we see it's doing great. You never know when you repair something like that what kind of metal fatigue is actually in the metal, or how long it'll be before it starts cracking again. But this has been a year since we reworked this and plated it, and it's doing great. That's not why we're here. Now, if you look on the ground here, there's a piece of Velcro strapping that I ripped off and throwed down. We also see we got some bungee cords. We got some tie wire. There is even further up the boom, I believe we've got some ratchet strap action. There's a bunch of things holding the hydraulic lines on this machine that aren't the kind of things that are intended to hold hydraulic lines. So that's why we're here. You can see here there's a bracket that holds these hydraulic lines, and it's severely damaged. So the first thing we're going to go into it with is a straight head torch with a scarfing tip. And we're going to do a little surgery here, because what I'm wanting to do is remove this broken bracketry without disassembling these hydraulic lines and losing a bunch of fluid and making a mess. But the way that these lines are assembled through the bracket, it's going to make it where I just need to be a little bit careful here. I don't want to burn the lines or damage them in any way, but I need to get rid of the bracket. So, might make a little cut and sever a spot, and then skip around to another spot and just, take my time. Once I've got that out of the way, turn my attention to the next thing that needs to be dealt with, which is we're going to need another bracket. And you're about to witness a miracle here. So I hope you're paying attention when this happens. But I actually dropped this piece of soapstone and it didn't break. And that never happens. Generally, I drop a piece of soapstone, it flies into 6 different pieces. But it didn't break that time. So that was amazing. And I got it on film, which is even more amazing. But anyway, what we're doing is we're getting a layout here to cut out another bracket. And the purpose, now I am using thicker steel on this one than the original bracket. So that's one thing. And I'm also going to be adding some completely separate brackets to sandwich the hydraulic lines and hold them in place. But what this bracket does that's different than all the rest is this bracket holds on to the steel fittings where the rubber lines connect to the steel lines, and they stop the hydraulic lines from sliding up and down the boom. Now, the rest of the brackets I'm going to make that just squeeze the lines, those won't serve the purpose that this one will. This one will be the one that holds those fittings where they belong so that they can't slide up and down the boom. And the brackets that I'm going to make that just sandwich and hold and protect the lines are something where I'm going to be incorporating these plastic blocks. Now, if you need to get any of these machinable plastic blocks, you're going to be able to go to the description of my videos and go to my Amazon storefront, and under supplies, you'll be able to find these plastic blocks. And I found these plastic blocks on Amazon. And this is a hard machinable plastic that's going to allow us to make some brackets that'll hold these hydraulic lines without damaging the lines. And I found that I could mark on them with my with my markers, which the permanent markers I use are also on my Amazon storefront. I was able to center punch them just like steel. I was able to cut the blocks with my 872 chop saw just like steel. And you can see me here. I'm using a 1/4 inch drill bit and getting some holes drilled, and then I clamp this one on another one and transfer those holes with the 1/4 inch bit, and that all went great. No problems at all. I didn't run into any issue until I tried drilling the big holes. And I'm trying to use these drill bits that I normally drill steel with, and they just cut too fast for the plastic. It was getting wound up and bouncing around, and I had to find a solution for that. So I brought these blocks over to the drill press, and the first thing I did there with my left arm is I've cranked the RPMs of that drill press up as far as it would go. So I'm turning this big bit as fast as this drill press will spin it. And even still, if I got a little too fast with the drilling, it would shut her down. But turning it at a high RPM and then progressing into the block pretty slow, that fixed my problem. Now, another thing I think you could have done is used a paddle bit like you'd use on wood. That probably would have worked too. Here I'm using the jigsaw after I've got the holes drilled, and I've split the plastic block, and then I match mark it. And then this is something kind of on the side I wanted to show y'all. These cordless blowers has been one of the greatest things ever to help me keep the shop clean. You can do so much more with it than you can with a broom. A lot of times, if it's really dusty, I'll put a respirator on, and it doesn't matter if it's metal shavings, wood shavings, plastic shavings, or what. The cordless blower really cleans it up. I just blow it right out the door. But anyway, what I've got here, I've got the R Captain Cut 55 Pro plasma cutter. And I've got a piece of 1.5 by 1.5 1/4 inch wall square tubing. The reason I'm using this size square tubing is it's got an inside diameter of 1 inch. And if I cut one side out of the square tubing, that makes a channel that will hold that 1 inch plastic block nice and tight. So I just took the plasma, used the table as a guide, and cut one side out of a pretty good sized piece of this tubing. And here you can see this is a good use for the big old 9-inch grinder that you don't use all the time. But if you got a lot of grinding to do and you can get her on the table and clamp her down, this thing sure will get it done in a hurry. Got that thing cleaned up, and of course we've got a little bow to it. Kind of turned it into a banana. I clamp it down on the table and take the hammer to it and straighten that out, and that's no problem. Then we bring this piece over to the 872 chop saw rig, and I'm setting up a stop because I'm going to be cutting a bunch of pieces that are the same length. And I start cutting my pieces, and these are going to be the pieces that will make up my hydraulic line brackets, and these will hold our plastic block that we drilled just perfect. So the holes we're drilling in the plastic block fit the hydraulic lines, and then we split the plastic block in two. Then we fit the plastic block into the 1.5 by 1.5 1/4 inch wall tubing that we've turned into a channel. And the next thing we're going to need is some angle iron clips at the end so that we can bolt two of these brackets together and sandwich that hydraulic line and hold it in place and protect it at the same time. So I've got some 1.5 by 1.5 1/4 inch thick angle iron, and I set up a stop and I cut me a bunch of pieces 1.5 inches long. Then I use this center head square, and I just make an X on here, and that'll give me a spot that I can center punch and there I'll drill a hole there, and that is going to get welded onto the end of our bracket that we made, our tubing that we made into a channel, I guess you would say. And once we do that, the plastic block can go within it, and then two of these together can squeeze the hydraulic line, hold it in place, and protect it. So in this image right here, it's not welded, but it's sitting there the way it's supposed to. And now at this point, you should be able to start smelling what I'm stepping in here. This is what I'm thinking of welding. So, you know, the bottom one will get welded onto the mast, and then the other one will get bolted on top, holding the hydraulic lines in place and giving them something to hold them that's plastic that won't hurt them. And right here, what I wanted to show you was what I've got a pretty good 1/8 or maybe a little more gap, and I'm not beveling these. I'm MIG welding them with a gap instead of beveling. So I'm going to get real good penetration welding these inside and out. I need these to be pretty strong. They're going to get beat on. And I'm doing my penetration by gap, not bevel. So let's listen to this Arc Captain MIG 205 Pro as it MIG welds these brackets together. Gotta hit y'all up real quick with a t-shirt ad. Boss Lady Tina's selling these t-shirts. Got NBS welding on the chest, American flag on the sleeve, great big NBS welding on the back. Send Tina an email request. nbswelding@aol.com, $25 plus the cost of shipping. Thank you. I got this video speeded up pretty fast, and really the only thing I wanted to show was just the method I use to weld something like this, where I've got 6 pieces that are identical and each end is identical to weld. So, you know, there's a dozen clips basically that's getting welded on here, and I do it in a method where I do it all the same. And I guess the only reason I'm saying that or showing that is it's something I've done in the fab shops as I've worked over the years, and it helps me to keep from missing welds. It's just one of the worst things when you're building stuff and you need to build a bunch of parts and you're getting them welded and you think you're done, and you turn around and look and there's one laying in the floor that has one weld missing. And you got to spool everything out and start again because you missed that. If you've got multiple parts to weld like I just did there, if you do each one of them in exactly the same way with exactly the same routine and go through them one to the next, I'm just saying, for me, that keeps me from missing welds. It helps me. But anyway, we're back on the job site with the super service truck. We're back here at the Barco loader, and I've got the Trailblazer 302 fired up. I got out a power cord. I got out a grinder. I'm cleaning up where I had scarfed off the old bracket, busting out the aluminum bucket I take wherever I go, my stub bucket, and I haul my stuff in that bucket. That bucket is actually made out of the running boards that come on the brick nose dually when I bought it. It had a set of aluminum running boards, and I welded that aluminum together and made a bucket. And I have had that bucket all this time since, well, I bought that truck in 1999 and started in business in 2000. And I made that, turned it in. It went from running boards to a bucket when I took the running boards off in the early 2000s there somewhere. But I've been packing that around for a long time. So here we are. I actually decided, I have welded with my Arc Captain stuff so much that I have not been using my welding cables, and I have not been welding with the Trailblazer 302. And I decided that I better do that on this job and run some juice through those welding cables and run some juice through those reels. And so that's what I've done. I ran 7018 with the welding cables on the Super Service truck, welding with the Trailblazer 302. And I'm spooling everything up here. And it's interesting to think about, you know, if you take the money that I paid for this over 300 feet of welding cable and those two reels, you could buy a whole lot of Arc Captain welding machines and power cords. You know, here recently, I've used my little Arc Captain welders on site so much, and you don't need all that welding cable. You just need a power cord and your cord, you know, from your generator is all you need, and your welding machine. And of course, you're running off of short welding leads because the Arc Captains are so little and light, you can take them with you. But like I always say, you know, if you're interested in an Arc Captain welding machine, I've done reviews on a lot of them. And if you go to the description of my videos and use my link to get to the Arc Captain website and use my promo code NBS Welding 5%, and you can get 5% discount on your machine. And my YouTube channel will get some credit when you use my link. And even if you use some other offer to get a discount besides my promo code, still make sure you use my link. Make sure you use my link to get to all those sites, the Arc Captain and the Amazon and all of it. You know, you can. And yeah, I wear the Fitville shoes, and they've got some other gear that I really like. I like their insoles, especially their sports insoles in my running shoes. Got some new running shoes from Fitville, the Fitville All Traction that I've been running in. And I did like the Fitville Jet Core was my favorite running shoe, but now the Fitville All Traction is my favorite running shoe. The work shoes that I'm wearing are the Fitville Steel Core work boot with the composite toe. And I also add a plastic metatarsal guard that you can get on my Amazon storefront. And that metatarsal guard gives you some extra foot protection. And also, since these are a type of shoe that has laces, when you use that metatarsal guard, it protects the laces so you don't burn your laces up welding. But I got some stuff installed on this, and what I realized is that one of these hydraulic lines is bent so bad that it's not going to fit in my bracketry right. And what I want to show you that I'm doing right here, I carry a couple of wedges. These are wedges like you split logs with. I carry on the Super Service truck, and they are a handy tool for doing things besides splitting logs and splitting firewood. Where that hydraulic line is bent downward so bad, I'm driving that wedge in between the hydraulic line and the mast, and then you see me just rearing down on it with that wedge drove in there, and I just fixed that hydraulic line. I just straightened that hydraulic line. Didn't cause it to leak, didn't hurt anything, and it was that those wedges that allowed that to happen. And I've made a lot of other tools using those wedges. They're a really hard steel. You can spread things apart with them. You can break things with them. You can make brackets to squeeze things in place with them. A couple of splitting wedges on in your toolbox are a handy tool. And here I've got my brackets assembled and installed, welded everything down with 1/8 inch 7018 rod with the Trailblazer 302 on about 125 amps. And you see how we've got our plastic blocks are inside, fit inside of those channels we made out of the 1.5 by 1.5 by quarter square tubing. And those are sandwiched together to make some really nice hydraulic lines. And when I looked at that and I was thinking about the problem of them busting that bracket, the problem with them busting that bracket is where logs is falling down on that bracket there in the front and falling down there where the hydraulic lines go from a steel line to the hydraulic hose that goes out to the claw. And I just couldn't leave well enough alone and stop where I was without, the idea has come to my mind to build us a guard to go over the top of that. And this would be a guard that I could actually weld to that one bracket, to the top section of that bracket, and try to make this a little bit stronger. So I've got this bar grating, and you see what I'm doing here. One of the things about bar grating, when you lay it out, sometimes you got to cut it twice to get it to come out the way you want it to. It's because of the, like I wanted those round bars to be in the middle. If I didn't want it near, I didn't want the round bar to be at the end. So you couldn't just take it like a sheet and take a measurement and cut it out. You had to mark it off of those bars and then cut it twice. But what I've ended up with here, another thing I want you to notice is when you're using bar grating for something like I'm using it for here structurally, you might want to weld the round bars to the bars a little bit better than the factory fuses them. The way the factory fuses them is fine for the bar grating, the way you walk on them, and what the bar grating is for. But when you're using it for another purpose like we are here as a guard, it doesn't hurt to weld that a little bit better. You see I did some extra MIG welding on that. And then I've made this bracket here that's going to help hold this guard on. And I tacked those two 1/2 by 2 brackets together. And I drilled through those 4 holes with a 5/16 bit. And the bracket, then I took them apart, where I had them tacked together, I took them apart. And the one on the back side, I threaded holes. And then the one on the front side, I drilled out a little bit bigger. I drilled them out to a size, I don't know, it was 7/16. I think it was a little smaller than that, but it was bigger than 3/8 for the 3/8 bolt to go through. And then I'm welding that onto my guard section. And that leaves me with one more piece that I need to weld on my guard, which would be the top part of the very bottom bracket. And I'll let you listen to this MIG welder sizzle on that part. So I'm getting a little bit of paint on this thing. We're getting it ready to run back over to the log yard and install it. I'll be doing field work today, so I don't heat the shop every day. It's pretty cold. I wanna dry this paint, so I've got the Hillbilly powder coating booth set up here. This moving box was left at one of my rental properties. That's my Porter Cable heat gun. And I had it about 200 degrees inside of that box in no time, even though it's less than 40 degrees in the shop right now. Little trick you can do. You don't have to heat the whole world just to get your paint dry. Getting this thing put back on there, we're getting this job wrapped up. And with this installed, we're looking good.